There's home for about 2 weeks. In late May, we set off for our cruise to ports in Iceland and then in Norway on the Norwegian Star. We'd be flying into Reykjavik, where we would have an overnight, and then on to the cruise ship. We were on the latter of the 2 Iceland Air flights out of Dulles Airport that evening. Because we were getting free air travel according to the cruise line, it had booked our flights. I didn't mind. I've always liked Iceland Air, and our plane looked brand new. And honestly, this is the flight that I would have picked anyway. I don't remember much about the flight over the ocean, so I must have fallen asleep, but I do remember landing. Touching down at the airport to start a new vacation is always exciting for me. And it turns out it could have been even more exciting. A volcanic eruption nearby just 5 hours after we landed closed the airport for a time. The process of disembarking the plane, going through customs and immigration, and retrieving our luggage all went very smoothly. After about a 40-minute ride in a private car, we arrived at the Hotel Borg, which I can recommend. We used our one day in Reykjavik to rest up and also to see a little of the town. Before we knew it, though, it was embarkation day. After paying way too much to get from our hotel to the cruise ship, we arrived. We could see the ship from quite far away. It was a big one. Of course, these days, what constitutes a large cruise ship is being redefined. The Star's listed capacity is 2,348 passengers. That's big. We found the check-in process efficient and easy, although these videos don't make it look that way. We were embarkation group 23, and after a short wait in some chairs, we were heading on board. Because the cabins weren't immediately ready, we decided to have a look around. This is the main atrium, but we were headed to the upper deck. For now, at least, the upper deck was empty. We were sharing the port with an MSC ship.
It looks like the 2 ships are close together.
It's been long enough, let's head down to the cabin. We had booked cabin 5516, which is an ocean view cabin. That means it was low, but close to the front of the ship. Here's a look around the cabin. Honestly, it was pretty small, but it had everything that you could need.
These devices include, but are not limited to, cell phones, cameras, electric shavers, and hair dryers. Norwegian Cruise Line. We operate a zero-tolerance policy regarding disposal.
The bathroom was definitely small, but it was well laid out and it had everything you would need. By the way, the announcements didn't continue all the time, but when they did come in the cabin, it was usually for important information. Then it was time to watch the sail away. We viewed it from the pool deck. Whatever party or festivity there was, it was being held in the Bliss Lounge, which you'll see later. We, however, were willing to put up with the cold to have the view. And there's Reykjavik disappearing behind us. The ominous stormy skies would be with us for quite some time. Dinner that night was in the Italian specialty restaurant. Quite early, apparently. But who could be sure the sun did not set for the entire 12-day cruise? Our first port of call, which we reached overnight, was Isafjordur, and I'm still not saying it right, I bet. We had booked the Arctic Foxes and Avalanches excursion through Norwegian. And away we went.
Well, it is a remote place, okay, but we do have facilities, yeah, some facilities. But this is not typical. Come on, 3,000 people at the Westfield. This is too much, and we will see another place today. So, but we are not allowed to stop on this road.
Our local tour guide for our first excursion was exceptional. It's worth mentioning that all the excursions that will come up in this video are ones that I booked through the cruise line itself.
We had a tragedy, and this was in 1995, so it is almost 30 years ago. A huge avalanche came down here on this place and destroyed everything there. There's no houses, houses there, but not here. It took it all.
This stop was in Reykjavik, and this was a somber one because this is the location of an avalanche in 1995 that killed 14 people, including 8 children. They've taken the site and put a children's playground in its place, having moved all the homes away from it. It simultaneously has the feeling of a memorial and also a place that you can enjoy. Kind of strange. Next, we went to Reykjavik's small church where we were treated to a live musical performance. It turns out this church used to be on the other side of the fjord, but they moved it because that's where the people were.
Exploited by the Danes, Norwegians. So this is the bottom of the fjord, the big nothing here, and well, it is a bit windy.
And then it was time to go to the Arctic Fox Center.
He's having a walk. Percy, he is 85 years.
Oh, and by the way, apparently our guide saw his neighbor out for a walk.
We got 1 hour.
Anytime I travel, seeing wildlife is a highlight. And no, I hadn't seen an Arctic fox yet. But then I did. Now let me explain that these foxes are rescues, and they were molting at the same time. So they look a little rugged, but they're just fine. They're well cared for, and they were being well fed at this point. In addition to the foxes, which are outdoors, there's a small indoor museum. As with just about anywhere I went on this trip, you also needed to keep your eyes open for the beautiful scenery. This was no exception.
It takes him ages to place a nail in a piece of wood.
Upon our return from the excursion, it was time for some beer. And then we returned to the ship. Recurring theme on this trip was just how beautiful it was to sail in and sail out of these ports. I made a point of spending as much time as possible on deck. A quick trip to the promenade or to the Lido would often be rewarded with these views. As we're heading out to more open waters, let's take a look around the ship. The Stardust Theater had something going on every evening and some afternoons as well. It was close to our cabin, but there was never a noise issue. Maps both in the room and around the ship let us know when we were approaching the next port. For the entire cruise, the sun never really set, so that created opportunities for me to take a walk around the ship in the very early morning when nobody else was out. I mean, if I'm not going to sleep, I might as well use the time, right? So let's take a look at some of the restaurants around the ship. Here's the sushi bar. And here's the entry for La Cucina, which I've shown you before. Now let's take a walk into the main atrium of the ship. This is where guest services is located as well as the Starbucks. There are also desks for making dinner reservations or for booking excursions if you haven't done so already. Continuing aft from the atrium, you'll find Proof, the whiskey bar, where you can watch Australian rules football, but you can't buy anything at 6 in the morning. But let's go up 6 decks and see what's going on in the buffet. Now, I don't have a lot to compare it with, but I found that the Star's buffet was okay. I've enjoyed the ones on Holland America cruises more, to be honest. Continuing my early morning poke around the ship, I went up to Cagney's Steakhouse. This is one of the premium dining experiences, and we would be eating there later in the cruise. And this is the Bliss Lounge. This is where a lot of the activities from everything from bingo to dance classes takes place, and they also have a live DJ in the evenings. Cruise ships get a plaque or other recognition every time they come to a port for the first time, and you could tell that the Star had been to a number of different places just by looking at them. This is Versailles, the main dining room. It was actually a very pleasant space, as you'll see later in the video. The ship had some other amenities as well. Here's the gaming room. It also had a library, which, believe it or not, looked pretty good. It was a very quiet space in any event. And then there's the shipboard spa. I admit I did treat myself to a massage here. If you decide you want one, pay attention. There's always some kind of sale. There was also an Effie jewelry shop. How surprising. The drinks package does not include the onboard Starbucks, but I sucked it up and had some anyway. Time for our next port of call, Akureyri in Iceland. It looked like a lovely small town from the ship, but I didn't really get to spend any time there because the excursion that we took ended up being late. Oh well, I have an excuse to go back, I guess. We disembarked, walked to our bus, and set off for our Jewels of the North excursion. That meant the only part of the town we saw was through the bus windows.
Northern Iceland, but we have everything you need for a prosperous and yet comfortable city life. And in the beginning of the 20th century, a settlement in Iceland.
Turns out the places we were going were all pretty far apart and pretty far away, but man, they were worth going to.
She was of Celtic.
We got another nice view of the NCL Star from across the fjord. Before long, we were out of town and into the countryside, and as always, the views were spectacular. I realize that video shot through a bus window is not always of the best quality, but, I mean, just take a look.
It's not 3D.
Right.
Not bad, eh? The first stop was Godafloss, the waterfall of the gods, and it was everything you expected it to be, spectacular. It's sights like this that make people want to get out of Reykjavik and see the countryside. It's worth it. Be sure to take a walk around and see the waterfall from a number of different viewing positions. After exiting through the predictable gift shop, we were back on the bus. This was Lake Mavaden. It's an interesting area with lots of volcanic formations and a little museum. We had what felt like a quick look around. It was also a good bathroom break, by the way. And if you were wondering about whether or not it was windy, it was windy. I'm not sure it's ever not windy.
Come back anyway. Before we do, I've got to get a Do Voyage t-shirt.
All right, black metal fans, are you ready? Here's Dimmu Borgir. It literally means the dark castles in Icelandic. The formations, which come from a collapsed lava tube, are thought to look like castle turrets. Now, I have a confession. We didn't go very far into the formations themselves. Instead, we had a cup of coffee at the inevitable gift shop.
All around this rim and enjoy the panoramic view.
You heard our guide, enjoy the panoramic view. I did. Here we cross the place where the tectonic plates for America and Europe meet.
And we are now leaving America and entering into Europe.
Our next destination stunk. Literally, it was a sulfur spring, and it stunk. If you could smell this video, you wouldn't like and subscribe. But since you can't, would you mind liking and subscribing? I make these videos for fun, but a little positive reinforcement never hurt anyone. And then it was time to leave the smelly place and head back to the town. We had to board immediately upon returning. We didn't have time to look around the town, but that was okay because we had one more port to go in Iceland. This is the Norwegian Star's version of the Spice H2O Lounge, the adult lounge. Not a lot going on when it's cold outside here. Trying to get that magical shipboard sunset is hard when the sun doesn't set. The little fish in the carpet say we're heading back to our cabin. See how they point forward? The next morning we found ourselves headed to the beautiful town of Isafjordur and all that it offered. By now I'm confidently mispronouncing town names. Well, we've just been informed we don't get to go here. You heard me right. There was a storm coming in, and as a result of that, although the tenders could probably have gotten us to shore, they couldn't have gotten us back on the ship confidently. So even though it looked like a beautiful day, we had an extra sea day as we sailed back out. There is one thing I will do on a cruise ship that I will not do anywhere else because it's a little embarrassing. At least to me it is. And that is play bingo! There are two important things here. First, never think about how much money you spend on the bingo. And second, get the t-shirt. It's awesome.
Okay, kids under the age of 18 must be accompanied by parents at all time. Kids can play, kids can win. Mom and dad, you're the only one can claim the prize because you're gonna claim the prize in the casino cashier.
I won nothing. A surprise sea day means a surprise movie showing. Time for our dinner at Cagney's, the steakhouse. We did find ourselves in gale conditions on the way from Iceland up to Svalbard. I did a separate video about that, and if you want to watch it, here's what the thumbnail for it looks like. Find it on my channel. One morning we did the behind-the-scenes tour. That's pretty neat. You can't take pictures through much of it. With a guide, you and a small group will get to see the crew's quarters and other areas of the ship that are not normally accessible to passengers. They did allow making videos and taking photos in the laundry room, so here's the laundry room. Actually, it was kind of neat. They clean everything from the napkins at dinner to the crew uniforms. Of course, the highlight was the trip to the bridge, and there I got to meet our captain, Luigi. He was nice enough to pose for a photo. For lunch, we went to Ocean's, which we found we enjoyed as much as any of the dining venues on the entire ship. It's a little better than pub fare, and you can watch things like the French Open. Now this video makes it look like we went straight from lunch to dinner, and it kind of felt that way too. It was a sea day after all. This was our night to eat at Teppanyaki, the onboard hibachi restaurant. The food was good and the atmosphere was boisterous and loud, but that's because you're getting a live show. In 2 days we had made it to Svalbard. Now this is a place that deserved its own video, and so I made one. Take a look if you wish. Svalbard is about as far north as you can go on a cruise ship, so it was time to sail back to the mainland of Norway.
I thought it said rest in paradise.
It was about this time that the special t-shirts and sale items came out from the ship's store. We did get a couple shirts, I have to admit. But a sea day on a cold weather itinerary can be a little different than one in, say, the Caribbean. There's probably still drinking, but you can't hang out on the deck or do some of the other things you might do. But at least you can learn to samba.
Gorgeous. Now we're going to stay down. And we're going to roll forward.
Let's have another look around the ship to see what else is going on. The next morning we reached Honningsvåg, which is in the Nordkapp part of Norway. As I already mentioned with a couple of the other destinations, when I got to a place that I thought deserved its own quick video, I made its own quick video. So you can find this one at this location on my channel. This day was so surprisingly warm that we made it our pool day. And when I saw an empty hot tub, I went for it. Later that afternoon, we had dinner in Versailles, the main dining room. We were early enough that it wasn't too crowded, so we got seated at a window. I found this main dining room really an attractive space. I enjoyed a nice glass of red wine, French onion soup, and then a steak of some sort, and I am afraid that I'm a terrible YouTuber because I don't remember exactly what they called it, but there it is. I do know the dessert was the creme caramel. Funny that. If you've cruised before, you already know this. But when you're in port, the stores are closed and the casino is not open either. Next up in Norway was Alta. I've already done a separate video about it, and I've decided that it's probably a lovely place to visit on any day but Sunday morning at 8 a.m. There's enough blame to go around for this one, including to myself. For our last dinner on board, we went to the main dining room. We were finding it really enjoyable to eat there. Then it was to the theater for a special grand finale. The crew was the special surprise. And then it was time to debark in Tromsø. We'd set the luggage out the night before, so all that remained for us to do was to find our way off the ship. I enjoyed both the Norwegian Star and this particular itinerary to Iceland and Norway. And I hope this nudges you to try a cruise like this. I'd also love it if you'd like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, you'll see me again soon.